So I want to talk a little bit today about shadow work. So what is shadow work? The shadow is a dark part of who you are, something that you're trying to repress or don't like about yourself or want to hide. It could be, a strong emotion. So if you're prone to anger and going to rage and that frightens you, that emotion frightens you or how strong it is, or you had a childhood trauma, and something happened and your mind repressed that because as a child you didn't have the capacity to deal with that and maybe you dissociated if somebody hurt you. Or it's something, a negative feeling or a negative trait that you want to hide from the world because you're embarrassed or, you went through a difficult situation and you felt shame or guilt or hurt and pain. And so your mind sometimes will try to protect you by hiding that away from your consciousness, your everyday. But the problem with that is it's not dealt with. It will raise its head in unexpected ways. So, for example, if, you're doing something, it's like going about your normal everyday routine, and then you smell something or you hear a sound or a song or something, and all of a sudden you get very tense or anxious or have a panic attack, or all of a sudden you hear a song that you haven't heard and it triggers something in you, and then you get depressed, or someone says something in the wrong tone and you lash out at them, in a way that's like above and beyond what the situation called for. That could be that unresolved negative thing, that emotion or that experience or that feeling that you had, before has not been dealt with. And that is the shadow. And that's something, to do your shadow work is to take that thing that you've hidden away and repressed, and so that it doesn't end up consuming you and coming out at times that may not be appropriate and affecting your everyday life, creating situations that could become problematic, by addressing that thing and actually going inward, and having the courage, if it was something negative or hurtful that you experienced as a child, anybody hurting a child, it's not the child's fault. And that experience is repressed because the child mind can't handle it, and the child has to disassociate and repress the trauma, to protect the ego. And so that becomes problematic as an adult because then you have your inner child lashing out for seemingly no reason and affecting your behavior, over the top, or, causing issues, like panic attacks and things like that. So doing your shadow work is actually sitting with yourself and going inside and looking at those repressed things and understanding, if somebody hurt you as a child, it was never your fault. But it's something that affected you, and it's something that made you who you are, and maybe it was too traumatic that you can't forgive the person who did that to you, or maybe you don't want to. But that is a part of yourself, and that is something that happened. And, if you need to be able to, don't let the shame and the guilt, somebody telling you that, having anger is bad. Anger is an emotion. It's not bad. It's there for a reason. Being able to act on it constructively and, so the anger doesn't turn into rage, that is something that if you can understand that happened to you and that is, a repressed feeling, and that but it's a part of you, you know, and actually forgive yourself, for that part, and accept that that's part of you. By embracing those things that you have repressed or tried to hide or are embarrassed and ashamed of, those are a part of you. And if you forgive yourself and say, I understand this is a part of me, but I'm not going to let it control me. It's something that happened, but I am not that frightened child anymore, and forgive yourself and accept it. Then you can embrace your shadow, and it stops having control of you. It is a part of you. It is something that you experienced. And by accepting that, even if you're still traumatized or frightened by it, it's something that has shaped you and made you who you are today. And if somebody hurt you as a child, that's never your fault. But you can forgive yourself. That was an adult projecting their own insecurities on you as a child, which was unfair. But when you're a child, your parents are always right, and they're the big, mother is the word for God on the lips of all children, I think is the line from The Crow. And that's very true. But as long as you embrace that shadow and forgive yourself and accept that that is a part of who you are, you can stop it from controlling you. And that will allow you to move forward and shine brighter and make sure that you are as beautiful and a whole person.